welcome back to the WDN4L podcast. That's Who Dat Nation for life, because that's what we are. We are a part of the Who Dat Nation, and it's for life. This is not some, I'm going to be a Saints fan for 5 years. Hell no, it's not that. Nope. I don't know why you would want to be a Saints fan right now, other than if you already were anyway. So, whatever, you know? Welcome back for episode 4. That's right, we're almost at episode 5. And at episode 5, I'm thinking about doing a tribute to the first 4 episodes. So this will be a part of that tribute. I'm kidding. Why would I do that? We got a couple good topics today. So today is actually Friday, the 28th of February. Oh, wow, that's the last day of February, most years. Oh my God, rent is due tomorrow. Okay. So we got a couple good topics for you. I watched the Combine yesterday. Like I said, today's Friday, so I've only been able, at this very current moment, I'll probably end up recording another segment after Saturday. Yeah, I'll probably end up recording another segment after tomorrow. Because tomorrow is like obviously the day everyone loves, being the running backs, wide receivers, and quarterbacks. But as of right now, I have only seen the linebackers and defensive linemen. But I will give you some names that I, like, with my own eyes, I watched look very smooth in a lot of stuff that they were doing. We're going to talk about the fact that Derek Carr is most likely your starter next year. Should that cause you to change your expectations for 2025? Is Kellen Moore letting Mickey Loomis kind of have his way right now? That appears to be the case. We'll talk about it. Then I'm going to talk about whether we should re-sign Chase Young. He's just the first. He's one of the bigger names on the defense, especially that's a free agent. So I think it makes sense for us to just go ahead and talk about just him specifically right now, as far as whether we should re-sign him. So we'll talk about that. And without further ado, let's get her done. Let's get it started. All right, so the scouting combine started yesterday. For those of you that don't know, so my wife listening to this, just kidding. She's gotten a lot better about just football in general, and she's actually super excited for Jackson Dart on Saturday. I am too. Okay, so for those who don't know, the scouting combine is basically almost like a really big job interview mixed with as if you're kind of working out to get the job, if that makes sense. So for example, the 40-yard dash is one of the biggest, I want to say event for some reason, but I guess the drill. 40-yard dash is one of the biggest drills. Everyone, it's what brings in all the viewers. It's what most people end up basing their freaking draft off of for some reason. Because just people like when players are fast. I mean, damn near Al Davis of the freaking Raiders, that motherfucker, dude. If a player ran a 4.2, if that motherfucker was 5'6", he did not care. He was like, "Are you serious? A 4.2? Just draft him first round." Darius Hayward-Bay. I mean, he wasn't short, but should Darius Hayward-Bay have been a first round receiver? No, it doesn't matter. Point being is, look at the combine like a really big job interview that if you perform well, it can sway, your draft stock. If you perform terribly, it actually can plummet your draft stock. I personally think you need to base things more off of tape. But, I mean, shit, dude, there is literally some NFL execs that base everything off the combine. It baffles me. I mean, like, I get, from an entertainment standpoint, I completely get it. I do. And the NFL has now turned this into, like, some damn event, dude. When I was in high school, I used to watch that motherfucker, like, so my senior year, I was an aide for the attendance lady at my high school. Shout out Miss Johnson. And most of the time, I would just kind of sit there because the only time I needed to, what I would do is I would run passes to people that are either getting picked up early or I would, like, fill things out for people that came in late. You know what I mean? And sometimes there were days where I only had to run, like, 1 or 2 passes. And this was for, like, an entire block is what we called them. I don't know if y'all had a block schedule or what, but so it was like an hour and a half at least. During the combine in high school, my senior year, I just went on the computer in the little office that she had. She had an extra computer. I just went on the computer and started watching the combine because it started at like noon. Like it wasn't like this big spectacle that it is now. And it's probably going to get even more and more popular. The NFL is just, I mean, it's not right. Like, I'm not breaking news by any means by saying the NFL is just blowing up more and more as we speak. The fucking cat, I have my cat trying to hit my fucking hands right now like we're playing patty cake. The cap space is at a number that they didn't even know it could be at. I sized that. I don't know why I said that. I meant to say the cap space is at a number that no one thought it would be at right now. Like, they thought it would be a little bit lower. Nah, you want to play with my hands? This is Pua, like the pig in Moana. This is my daughter's cat. And she is kind of annoying. Like, she really will only want attention when you don't want to give it to her. And if you want to give her attention, like right now, she's not about it. Like, she doesn't do it. But, I mean, I love her because she's great with my daughter, so. All right, Pua, stop playing with my hands. Anyway, back to the combine. So all I got to watch was the defensive tackles, edge rushers, and some of the linebackers. My wife came home from work, and I ended up making dinner for everybody. So I didn't get to watch all of the linebackers. I watched some of them. So I probably will end up adding more names as this combine shit goes. And obviously there's more time because of pro days and just time in general for me to watch tape. But for right now, what I saw, defensive tackles, Derek Harmon out of Oregon looks like a beast. Like, he's big as fuck. And he just moved very smooth for someone his size. Like, he stumbled a couple times, but someone as big as him to move as fluidly as he did, I liked what I saw. I did. I did not write down any of these players 40 times. The only one I know for a fact, like, I know the kind of range of them. I just didn't write down their 40 times because, I mean, we shouldn't really fully be basing it off of that anyway, but I'm sure I will write down the 40 times of the skill players. So also, I wrote down Darius Alexander. He's a defensive tackle out of Toledo. It's ironic. I wrote him down because he ran like a 4.8 as a defensive tackle. That's crazy. That's athletic right there. And this is what I mean. Like, does that necessarily, like, is that going to translate? Because do you need a defensive tackle running a 4.8? No. But because he ran the 4.8, he had one of the quickest 10-yard splits, which is also what Derek Harmon had. A very quick 10-yard split. And the reason big men like this run 40s, even though that they shouldn't really be running 40 yards downfield, is because of that 10-yard split. And plus, they just make everyone run 40s. I'm pretty sure kickers do. I would pay actual money to watch a kicker run a 40. I mean, you got to know if he can catch somebody, right? He's the last line of defense. Or maybe punter, you know? Anyway, point being is he's very athletic. Is that going to translate? He wouldn't. This is like what I, envision sort of. With someone like him, he is, just hypothetically speaking, you could draft him to be one of the outside pieces of that 3-4 because they still need to be defensive tackles. Like, I personally think Brian Brzee is about to be unlocked to a whole new level this year. And that's crazy to say because he already led the team in sacks last year with 7.5, which is 2 more than Chase Young. But is the athleticism going to translate? So, like, when you put a player like Darius Alexander on the outside, your thinking is he is still a defensive tackle, so he should be able to help stop the run. But with that athleticism, like with Brian Brzee, it's almost like adding an extra pass rusher too. If that outside linebacker that's going to be lined up right on the outside of that defensive end, if those two can kind of start, getting chemistry together and running some stunts and whatnot, like, yeah, it's very possible that it fucks a lineman up and the lineman ends up actually prioritizing the linebacker just out of confusion. And then someone like with a 4.8 40 would probably be able to get back to the quarterback in time. So that would be my thinking with that. Now, at the same time, there are some of these edge rushers that I would put at like a 3-4 spot instead of the outside linebacker spot. Most of these, though, I'm probably putting at the outside linebacker, but there is maybe like 1 or 2 on here that I'll probably put at the outside. What is it? It's a something technique. I'm having a brain fart right now. I'm sure some of y'all are listening to this like, you fucking idiot. I never said that I was a genius. I did actually in the first episode. I did say I was a genius. That's at mock drafts, okay? So a couple of the edge rushers I wrote down. Jordan Birch out of Oregon. He just looked fluid. Most of these are going to be because they looked smooth. Again, eye test. That's really all this is. It's a combine, bro. They're running around in fucking pajamas, basically. Fidel Diggs is a defensive end out of Syracuse. He is one of the ones that I would put at outside linebacker. He ran like a 4.6. That's pretty fucking good. I would put him as an outside linebacker pass rusher. Landon Jackson out of Arkansas. So I think he ran a 4.8. He is athletic, and again, I would probably put him as one of that defensive linemen, not outside linebacker, because he's like 6'6". Yeah, he's like 6'6", and he ran a 4.8. To me, it feels like, but it could be versatile. He could do either side of, whatever side he prefers, obviously, but he could do either that outside defensive end or outside linebacker, pass rusher kind of deal. Then we got James Pierce Jr. Now this right here is someone that probably just made himself a top 10 pick if he wasn't already. 6'5". He's only 250. I get that. That is undersized for someone that's 6'5". This motherfucker ran a 4.4. A 4.47 to be exact. That is faster than some players like Christian McCaffrey, Amon-Ra St. Brown. There was one other. I'm sure he's faster than a lot of people. That's insane for a defensive end to run a 4.4. That is an athletic freak. That is the type of... This is what I mean when I say a combine can just skyrocket your draft stock. I've seen some mock drafts where he doesn't get drafted until the 32nd pick to the Eagles. Can we stop letting the Eagles, and yeah, I'm basically talking to the Saints when I fucking say this. Can we stop letting the Eagles get all these players, bro? And B, can the Saints realize that the Eagles have drafted straight SEC players besides Quinyon Mitchell, and it worked out for them? Fuck. The SEC breeds winners, and so does the Big Ten. Shit. Anyway, 4-4 for a defensive end is insane. I hope the Saints draft him, honestly. I would be completely okay with that being the first pick. You put him at that outside linebacker. He's tall enough and fast enough to drop back in coverage if he needs to. I don't necessarily want him to, but you can disguise some coverages because of that athleticism. Let him get after the fucking quarterback, too. And he's fast enough. This motherfucker better actually bring him down. I'm saying this like he's already on the Saints because pressures piss me off. And we'll get into that. So, yeah, James Pierce Jr., stud. And I hope the Saints draft him at 9. I'll probably end up making that some of my picks and my mocks now. Anyway, I also put down Shamar Stewart. This, the scouting department of the Saints is still the same. But if the coaching staff was still the same, I would bet like my entire bankroll on Bet365 that the Saints would draft Shamar Stewart. Perfect score on the RAS, which is raw athletic score, I believe. And the Saints, like, bro, they must just, when they get into that draft room, hit Google and look up fucking RAS scores, because it seems like that's what they base their fucking, especially with defensive ends, that's what they, and Trevor Penning, that's what they base their shit off of when they draft. So if a perfect score, like Shamar Stewart is a freak for sure. And honestly, I wouldn't be pissed if the Saints drafted him. He's another one of those kind of tweeners. Like, you could decide what you wanted to do with him. You know what I mean? So another guy probably just either made himself a top 10 pick or a top 15 pick. Again, wouldn't be mad if the Saints drafted him. I really wouldn't. Then I got David Walker out of Central Arkansas. I only wrote this down because he ran decent enough in the 40, and he's a small school guy that you could probably get in the 5th to 6th round, maybe 4th. But he could end up being an impact player. He's probably going to start as a depth piece to whoever that drafts him, and that's fine. But I really wouldn't be surprised if he ends up being like an actual contributor. Jack Sawyer out of Ohio State. This isn't groundbreaking by any means. Real quick, because obviously Ohio State just dawned my brain. I didn't write down Mason Graham on the defensive tackles because he didn't participate, and neither did Walter Nolan. I would, just for the record, I would be shitting 12 chickens and eating a goose egg if the Saints drafted either Mason Graham or Walter Nolan at 9. I'm starting to think, the more and more I think about it, truly, the more and more I think about it, Mason Graham and Walter Nolan seem like the perfect pick for the Saints at 9. Because they can either be that nose tackle or one of the outsides. You're probably putting Mason Graham at the nose tackle spot, which is fine, and Walter Nolan more so at the outside, but the point being is they can be both. And you pair that with Brian Brzee. But again, in the same breath, you pair Brian Brzee with fucking James Pierce Jr., Shamar Stewart, feeds families. Jack Sawyer, Ohio State, it's not like groundbreaking by any means to say that, this is going to be a good player. He won a championship in college, and I don't remember if it was in the championship game or if it was in the game before, but he returned a fumble for a touchdown. It was like 80 yards, bro. He was gassed. getting there on the sideline. That's a leader. That's an impact player. Probably not getting him to the second round. So if the Saints wanted him at 40, that's great. Same with Princely Umamielen. He ran like a 4.7, which isn't terrible. I mean, he's like a big dude. So, again, at pick 40, I would be completely fine with that as well. Donovan Uzaraku from BC, Boston College. Fuck Matt Ryan, though. He didn't run, Donovan Uzaraku, but he did some of the on-field drills, and he looked very smooth. And, I mean, the production speaks for itself. You can Google it. Like, he did very well last year. Another one that I would probably more so... He might have made himself a first-round pick, but I would probably more so want the Saints to get him at 40 if they were going to get him. If not in the third round. You know what I mean? You don't know how the draft's going to fall. So that was it for the edge rushers. Most of those I'm putting at the outside linebacker spots, with probably Jack Sawyer, Landon Jackson, and maybe Shamar Stewart being the exceptions. I only wrote down 2 linebackers. Like I said, I didn't really get to watch because of the whole dinner thing, and my wife and I watch Hell's Kitchen when we eat. It's absolutely great. It's delicious. It's raw for those that enjoy Hell's Kitchen. So I only wrote down 2 linebackers. I got Chris Paul Jr. out of Ole Miss. Again, I'm biased, but I'm not kidding, bro. Like, this dude plays like his hair is on fucking fire. Like, do y'all remember Quan Alexander? The way he would just fucking and make plays in the backfield? Yeah, that's him. I've seen him miss tackles because of it, though. So, again, kind of like Quan Alexander. Like, I've seen him miss tackles because of it. That's honestly who I would compare him to for pro comp is Quan Alexander. He's insanely athletic. He plays like his hair's on fire. He would, like, make you want to run through a wall. You know what I mean? Like, Chris Paul Jr. is going to be a great player, I think. I would love if the Saints drafted him in the 3rd round. He might have raised his stock, though. He ran like a 4.6, which could be better for a linebacker, but 4.6 is, I mean, honestly, that's pretty ideal. And then I wrote down Barrett Carter for Clemson. I didn't watch him run. I just caught turning on the combine as, you know, the end of the linebacker drills were happening. And I saw him do one of the drills, and he just looked really smooth. He had to catch a pick, and it looked very easy for him. You know, it just looked natural, unlike Arian Smith, the receiver out of Georgia. All right, so very much to my dismay, Mickey Loomis and Kellen Moore have come out and said that Derek Carr is most likely, well, they said Derek Carr is going to be the starter in 2025. All right, Saints fans, like, I just, how should I, so technically, this was the most realistic option. Look, I didn't know because they also came out and said that they're not tanking, which teams will never admit that they're tanking, you know what I mean? But they basically plan on trying to be competitive. And B, like I said, Derek Carr is going to, and B, they're actually apparently going to be even more aggressive this year in free agency, which means they're just kicking the can even further down the road like they always fucking do. The salary cap is a myth. I don't know if the Saints will ever have to take their medicine. Alyssa, my wife, said that I said that way too much in the other episode. So real quick, I just want to say, for her specifically, and she's going to laugh, the Saints aren't going to have to take their medicine. They're not going to what? Have to take their medicine. I don't know if they ever will. They keep kicking the can down the road, and they keep finding loopholes. And especially if this cap space number keeps going up because the NFL keeps getting more and more popular. Dude, if COVID didn't happen, who even fucking knows where the Saints would be at cap space-wise? Because they just keep doing all these fucking gymnastics. My cat is dumb. So this was always the most realistic option if that was going to be the route they were going, because, and by the way, Ross Jackson, you were right. He said this from the jump. This was probably going to be the way things were going. Shout out to the boy, Ross Jackson. This was always going to be the most realistic option simply because this allows them to, once they restructure Derek Carr, and yes, that means he'll be on the books till, it might end up being like 2029, but they get to basically create over $30 million in cap space this year by, basically front loading. He'll probably just get like a bonus and then front load the contract so that the cap number doesn't hit like it would. So yeah, fun fact, once he gets this $10 million bonus, he's going to be the only quarterback in NFL history to make $200 million and not have a single playoff win. Derek Carr has all these amazing stats and fun facts about him, like, in a bad way. I've never witnessed a player have some sort of, like, I don't even know what to call it. It's so funny. So yeah, this was the most realistic option. Now they're only going to have to restructure him and probably like 2 or 3 more players just to be cap compliant. And then they'll probably restructure even more like we always see them do so that they can have space to, sign some free agents. I guess they're saying they're going to be more aggressive this year in free agency because they know that they have holes to, like, there's holes throughout this entire roster. Once again, they're probably banking on no injuries happening, but it's just like, as Saints fans, I'm sure you can agree, like, until I fucking see it, man, every year there is devastating injuries. Every single year for the Saints. I'm not down in Louisiana. I don't know if it's the water that they drink. I don't know. People that, like, from what I've read, it's Oshner Health. And we just re-signed with them as our sponsor too, dude. It's fucking ridiculous, but whatever. So, sorry, Saints fans. Derek Carr is your quarterback for 2025. I will say, let's not entirely rule out the possibility of something happening between now and the start of the season. It's a long time. There's other things. There's free agency, the draft. Free agency lasts, like, as soon as that window opens, it's open. You know what I mean? For the entire season, technically. And then, like I said, the draft. There's a supplemental draft, but whatever. So technically, I wouldn't rule out, because if someone just calls the Saints and is like, dude, we'll give you a 3rd-round pick, like, I guarantee you they wouldn't be sorry. They would be like, oh my God, well, we just got to talk to Derek and figure out what we can do about his no-trade clause, which the Saints are so dumb for putting that. Who the fuck in the NFL has a no-trade clause? Someone put it in the comments if you know for a fact a player that has a no-trade clause in the NFL, okay? Not the NBA, in the NFL. Put it in the comments for me, because it's fucking stupid. The Saints are dumb. Clamoring to sign Derek Carr in general like that, I guarantee you that was their plan A, B, and C in 2022, or 2023, which just pisses me off, dude. Oh my God, Derek Carr is so frustrating, so boring. But technically, he gives you the best chance to win. As of right now, he does give you a better chance than Spencer Rattler to compete and win the NFC South. Which, to me, I think that's all the Saints care about. Like, I can't picture them keeping Derek Carr and convincing the fans that this is who can lead you to a Super Bowl. I think the Saints are content with this 8 to 9 probably like 7-9 win range. Ideally 9 for them. They think if they can go 9-8, they could possibly win this division. I think they're content with that sort of win range while still building. It's hard. It's so hard to do it this way if you're not fully committed to a rebuild, and the Saints just refuse to do that. Maybe they have a longer plan in mind. I'm sure they do. Like, I'm saying this with bated breath because we've truly never, ever seen them commit to starting over. And until we see it happen, I don't know how you could assume that they would. You know what I mean? So technically, Derek Carr gives you the best chance to win. Look, I think right now the ceiling is 8 wins. And that's if you have everything go right for you. I'm talking no injuries. You drafted impact players that actually are playing. You get a few games where the refs make calls on your side. That's 8 wins with this roster. And that's also assuming that teams like the Panthers and Falcons don't improve, I personally think the Bucs are overrated, and I know Bucs fans hate the Saints, but it's not a rivalry. We really don't give a fuck about y'all, like, when it comes to that. But I do think they're kind of overrated. I think, you keep in mind, this is just my opinion. I think Todd Bowles is a little bit overrated. I think he is a great defensive coach, and I'm sure he is a good head coach. I don't think he's doing exactly what the Bucs would want right now, because he's kind of just skating by and barely getting into the playoffs. But you cannot hate on 4 straight division wins. So props to the Bucs for that. Props to Todd Bowles for that. And props to Baker Mayfield for 2 of them. Anyway. So I personally think that this is actually probably the most ideal scenario for Spencer Rattler. Wow, what do you mean, Clay? So let's say Spencer Rattler ended up being your starter next year, right? And you throw him out there, and this roster's not like fully intact, or shit, maybe you start, like last year, and you start slinging that motherfucker, and you're 2-0 at the start, but then injuries start creeping in again, and you're right back to his rookie year where you're, worried about who's playing guard and who the fuck he's throwing to. And you're risking completely shattering this dude's confidence. Like, he is a very confident person. Spencer Rattler has one of the most... I haven't seen a confidence in a player walking out on the field the way that he does since Drew Brees. And no, I'm not comparing him to Drew Brees. I'm just saying there's a certain look in... even Jameis, like when he was on the team, there's a certain look on a player's face that you can tell they're very confident. And what I was saying about Jameis is there was times where he was not confident. There was times where he was probably the most confident player in the damn league. But there was also times you could see it in his face that he was not confident. Andy Dalton did not look confident at all. He just looked like, I'm not even supposed to be starting right now. Spencer Rattler, a lot of confidence. So you don't want to ruin that. And you don't want to ruin that. And then another scenario is you go out there. Look, I get that there's a scenario that you go out there and he fucking lights it up and he's shitting on everyone, and it looks like he has it looks like he has actually developed into a starting caliber quarterback, which I know he can be. That is your best case scenario, and apparently that's not a risk that the Saints are willing to take right now. Now, personally, I think this is all money related. I do. I think they are kind of locked to Derek Carr by motherfucking handcuffs. Probably the fuzzy ones with Mickey's freaky ass, but probably locked into you're locked into Derek Carr because of his contract situation, which you yourself did. So, you made your bed, lay in it, motherfucker kind of deal. So that's probably the main reason this decision has been happening. But I also want to look at it as like, so the Saints are probably not going to draft a quarterback this year, like at all. If they do, it'll be like a Kyle McCord, Riley Leonard kind of deal where you're bringing them in to compete with Spencer. But like I said, this probably means that they are confident in Spencer Rattler enough to be the backup quarterback and someone that you develop behind the starter to take the reins when it is time. The reports have come out that, like, not even just the Saints, but multiple NFL GMs were very impressed with what Spencer was able to do because they saw, what he was working with. I went on this tangent for 2 episodes. I'm not going to do it again. Y'all know how I feel about him. All I'm saying is I think this is actually a sign that the Saints like their quarterback room enough that even if they're not necessarily like super confident in Derek Carr, which Mickey Loomis is going to try and convince you that he is, I'm not buying it. I am not buying it. Kellen Moore hopefully is not buying it. Kellen Moore is hopefully like, I like Spencer Rattler. I think I can develop him, but I don't want him to start right now. And that's where that conversation went. You know what I mean? So they were like, fuck, we can just keep Derek Carr and let you develop this young kid who showed a lot of flashes, showed a lot of potential. I like it. Let's do this, Kellen. I think that is what's happening. Now, I'm being biased and optimistic because I love Spencer Rattler. But I really do think that is probably what ended up happening. And like I said, you can't rule out something happening between now and the season starting. You just can't. But, I think that this is a great sign for Spencer Rattler. I think, like, weirdly enough, I think this was probably his most ideal scenario. And honestly, Derek Carr is probably going to get hurt again. Ever since he came to the Saints, he is injury prone. He's actually kind of been injury prone ever since that once, like he had that MVP season. I don't know why I quoted it. He actually was in MVP talks. I want to say it was like 2016, maybe 17. But he got hurt the next year, and it was injury-wise downhill from there. So he's injury prone now. I don't care. I'm going to say that. And Spencer Rattler's probably going to get some playing time. So again, I can't deny this is probably Spencer Rattler's most ideal scenario. Still think he is the quarterback of the future. And that's what I'm going to end this segment on. So, should you change your expectations for 2025? I am not going to tell you what to do with your fandom, with your free time on Sundays. I'm not. Me personally, I'm going to be watching the Saints. I'm a diehard fan. They could win one game in a season and I would still watch every game. I like to look at the glass half full. Like last year when they were ass, I was just watching the rookies, which is how I got so enamored with Spencer Rattler and Kool-Aid McKinstry. Like I was looking for the young pieces to do something. But the Saints say they're going to be competitive. So you got to treat it as if that's how they're approaching the season. So, like, the Saints themselves cannot be upset if they're wanting to give the fans these expectations, which is probably why they raised the ticket prices, plus a new head coach. If they're giving the fans these expectations, they can't be mad when or if they lose games and the fans get pissed off. I don't know what the fuck happened to Mickey and his, brain. I don't see how he can't correlate this, but that's how it is. But they said they want to be competitive, so I guess the way me personally, am going into next season, I'm going to expect them to win games. They need to, if this is the case, they need to win 9 games. I know this is Kellen's first year. If you win less than 7 with this attitude, like it's kind of a failure. So my expectation, again, I'm telling you, ceiling is 8, but my expectation for them to be competitive about this, because if they're not going to make the playoffs, this is fucking pointless. So my expectation for them to be competitive is to win 9 games. And that's how I'm going to go into 2025, is expecting them to win 9 games. If you want to be negative about it and say that they're going to suck no matter what, which is completely understandable. Like, I totally get it. Or you can give, one last kind of... I know being a Saints fan requires giving so much. And I'm not saying being fans of other teams don't, but emotionally, Saints fans are so tied to their team. I'm not saying other teams aren't, but just shut up. Bear with me. The Saints have consistently been voted top 10 in most loyal and passionate fan bases, so it hits differently in New Orleans. So with that being said, you can give one last, just hear me out, one last effort, one last hurrah with this fucking roster. Because if I'm being completely honest, 2026 is going to look so different. The team is, what we were expecting this offseason is going to happen next offseason. Probably not going to have Tyrann Mathieu. You might not even have Cam Jordan this year, but you're probably not going to have Cam Jordan. Probably not going to have Demario Davis. I'd be surprised if there's no Alvin Kamara. I would be truly surprised. I don't know if Alvin Kamara gets a contract after this one, but he is signed through 2026. So I'd be surprised if he wasn't on the team. Plus, obviously, there's going to be a rookie class, 2 rookie classes coming in that time frame. 2026 is going to look so different. What I'm asking for y'all is one more season of giving effort and cheering and hoping that the team wins. Because, again, 2026 is going to look so different. And as we learned with Drew Brees, at least some of us, you can beg and beg and beg for all these changes, and you're ready for something new. Once it happens, y'all seem to not like it. I mean, there was people all over Twitter at Drew Brees' last 2 seasons that he's like, now, let me clarify. No one said he was washed, because that would be insane. But there were people that were saying he was holding the offense back, which I get. I completely get. The Saints had to change their entire offense to being closer to the line of scrimmage, always between the hash marks when it came to passing the ball, because Drew Brees just simply couldn't throw it as the way that he used to. Still was your best option. He would probably still be your best option, except for I heard that he can't throw at all anymore with his right arm, which is insane. So this team's going to look completely different in 2026. Don't take what you have right now for granted. Some people did that with Drew Brees, and as you can see... Yeah, that was rude. Sorry. Some people did that with Drew Brees, and as you can see, life without Drew has not been fun. Life without a franchise quarterback, not fun. Hopefully Spencer can be that next franchise quarterback. Kellen Moore said, and I completely agree with him, Kellen Moore said, you can't really go into a locker room and tell guys, hey, look, we're not going to compete this year. You can't, especially vets like Demario Davis, Cam Jordan, Tyrann Mathieu, Alvin Kamara. You can't look them in the eyes and be like, hey, we want a good draft pick. You can't do it. You just can't. They're not going to respect you, especially as a new coach. They're pretty much just going to be like, so you want me to sacrifice my body for nothing on my end. So I get that. Kellen Moore is actually right in that sense. And like I said, especially as a new coach, you want your players to like you. You want the locker room. So I mean, I get it. Like it's respectable. I totally get what he's saying when he says that, and I agree. Now, does that mean that Kellen Moore does all of this mean that Kellen Moore is letting Mickey have his way? For now. Yes and no. There could be, for all we know, there's been discussions already as far as Kellen saying, like, just so you know, like, this isn't my long-term plan by any means to keep kicking the can down the road. I eventually want to bite the bullet. I eventually want to do this. I eventually want to do that. I eventually don't want Derek Carr. I eventually want Spencer Rattler to start. I eventually want to draft a quarterback. You know what I mean? I can't always make it seem like it's just Spencer. But I will say, it's not looking like first impressions. It's not looking too good as far as Kellen Moore just being a yes man to Mickey. I totally understand Mickey's the GM, and half the time with most teams, GMs run things. Sean Payton, when he was here, he ran shit. I don't care what Mickey says. It was Sean. And I mean, like, Kellen doesn't really have that personality. So, like, I get it. But, like, for example, Aaron Glenn walked into New York and was like, fuck you, Aaron Rodgers. And the front office was like, yeah, whatever you want. Kellen Moore didn't do that. Kellen Moore was like, yo, sure. That was so unnecessary. I like Kellen, obviously. I don't want to temper anyone's expectations or excitement when it comes to Kellen. I don't, because I still like him. And obviously we need to be fucking patient. That's for damn sure. I said that from the jump. We need to be patient. But we also need to, the main reason we need to be patient is, I keep kicking the motherfucking table. The main reason we need to be patient is because we need to see what Kellen Moore's plan is. There is simply no way he walked in and was just like, no, yeah, I'm completely cool with Derek Carr. The fucking report came out that he didn't even like the Saints quarterback room. Which, again, to me is, dude, I'm so animate. I just finished my coffee. To me is not on Spencer Rattler. It's on Derek Carr. I don't think he necessarily likes Derek Carr. I think he thinks that he can work with Derek Carr. So hopefully Kellen Moore is not just a yes man to Mickey. Like, I get it. He came in late. He's the last head coaching hire because of the Super Bowl, and he had to fill his staff super quick. I like what he's doing. He's filling it with college coaches on the defensive side. I like that a lot, dude. I like that a lot because different reasonings. The main one being, like, the NFL is pretty influenced by the college game, whether it wants to admit it or not, it is. But defensively, how do I explain this? College defenses as a whole aren't usually good, but you can find studs in just about every defense on college, right? On every defense in college. You can probably, if I kick the table, I'm so sorry for those watching. If I kick the table one more time, I'm going to fucking walk outside for a minute. I have ADHD and I'm like a fucking, I just go, you know? And then ADHD again, what the fuck was I saying? I mean, so, like I said, hopefully Kellen isn't just a yes man. And, like, I like his attitude so far and the way he carries himself and how he answers questions. I mean, everybody's going to answer questions the correct way, you know. But him being kind of, like, laid back and not too talkative of a guy personality-wise, he's been doing pretty good with media. But again, hopefully he's not just a yes man to Mickey. And I really wish I remembered what I said, what I was saying. But I was talking about defensive players in college. The reason I like the college hires for the defensive staff is, like I said, you can find studs just about on just about any defense in college. So having these college coaches that were just there in the ranks, that just saw what college offenses are doing, because college offenses influence the NFL, like I said, whether they want to admit it or not. It's good. I like it. I like it a lot. And Terry Joseph is Vance Joseph's cousin. He's going to be the defensive pass game coordinator, which the Saints have never had. This is the first time they've even hired a motherfucker with that title. Jade Barron out of Texas. Going to be a great slot corner in the league. I feel it. He said that Terry Joseph changed his life. And anytime a player that just played right under you, like anytime he says, I mean, he said that he helped him off the field and everything. Like, he loves him as a coach. So anytime you get a player's approval like that, especially when he just doesn't need to, that's always good. So I'm sure getting these college coaches in to be on an NFL staff is going to be great for player development and chemistry. I mean, these are kids at the end of the day. Like, they're getting drafted. Now, the NIL kind of changes this narrative a little bit, because now, right out of high school, you can make $1 million. Fucking insane. But these are still kids at the end of the day, and in the old days, what we would say is they became overnight millionaires, and it's a lot all at once. So having a college coach, or a guy that, like, anytime you have a coach that has good chemistry with players and makes a player feel comfortable, it's good. I mean, they get them out of trouble, I mean, I don't want to say it like that, but, like, you know what I mean. You have a guidance, kind of like a guidance guy, and it's good, okay? It's good. It's good. So I like what he's doing with the defensive staff. And I mean, technically it's Brandon Staley making these hires, but Kellen Moore has to approve off on them. I think Brandon Staley and Kellen Moore are showing that they're working together and kind of having a similar mindset as to what they want this team to be. And that's great. That's what you need from your head coach to your coordinators to your position coaches to the fucking players. Another thing that's going to be coming up soon, besides March Madness, in March, is free agency, and that is the start of the league year. It's kind of died down, a little bit, I would say, as far as popularity, but not really. So maybe I'm dumb in saying that, but free agency is the start of the league year. It's big, and that's what's around the corner. The Saints have a lot of players that are going to be free agents. Should they re-sign Chase Young? So, Chase Young was top 15 in the entire league in pressures. Him and Carl Granderson both. My issue is Chase Young only got 5.5 sacks, which is 2 less than Brian Brzee, who is a defensive tackle and didn't even rank in the top 50 in pressures. Point being, Brian Brzee is a lot more efficient at rushing the passer as a defensive tackle than Chase Young, who's supposed to be your premier defensive end. Pressures are so frustrating because there are absolutely times where a pressure can affect the quarterback and make them have a bad throw, make them make a dumb decision, make them give up on a play before it's actually over. Yes, there are absolutely pressures that can do that. The issue is there's also pressures that really don't fucking matter because the quarterback still gets a pass off or just rolls out. It's going to go down as a pressure. You force the quarterback out of the pocket, but you didn't fucking do anything because he's taking off for 60 yards. You know what I mean? That's why I'm so torn on Chase Young, because he is disruptive. He gets back there. He does. And sometimes when he's back there, he makes the play. Most of the time he doesn't, though. But he's still your best defensive end. And without him, you genuinely only have Carl Granderson and Isaiah Foskey on roster. And that's not going to fucking cut it. I know Chase Young is one player, so it doesn't do anything depth-wise. I think if you can get him on a friendly deal, a team-friendly deal, I do think there is value in bringing him back for another prove-it year. Now, I will say, 5.5 sacks is his second highest total in his entire career. He only had 7.5 his rookie year. So, it's not like, it's so hard. It's so hard because you basically have to just, like, know that he is a freak athletically, and if you get him more help on the defensive line, maybe you see those sack numbers go up. I personally didn't see him getting double teamed too much, but he's clearly getting back there because of the pressures. But that's been the Saints' problem. Maybe that's not even necessarily Chase Young's problem. You know what I mean? Because Carl Granderson did the same exact thing. And it's always been that way. Not always. Excuse me. Ever since the defense took a little bit of a decline from Dennis Allen, it's just been pressures. It's not been getting them down. And god damn it, is that annoying and frustrating. Oh my god. I mean, like, you've seen it. Shit, you saw it in the Minnesota Miracle. Cam got back there. Or, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. They couldn't even get off the fucking line. And that's how that happened. So, excuse me for that. But, I mean, you see it all the time. Like, you'll see players get back there. And I know y'all are probably the same as me. When you see them actually get close or wrap the quarterback up, and you're like, all I'm saying is, like, bring him down. They don't. The quarterback will slip out. The quarterback will fucking sidearm it. If it's Patrick Mahomes, he'll find a way to fucking kick it with his, like a scorpion kick, bicycle kick, whatever, and it'll go 50 fucking yards for a touchdown, or at least be pass interference or something. But the Saints, they just don't end up getting the quarterback down, and I'm so fucking tired of it. Hopefully, they just hired Bo Davis. He is widely regarded as one of the best defensive line coaches in the entire country in college football out of LSU. Which, by the way, LSU fans are really pissed off about it. But I have no idea how you could blame a guy for not even having to relocate, but B, upgrading in every possible sense of, being promoted. So calm down, LSU fans. Seriously, calm down. I know that y'all are bad now. And Brian Kelly really pisses you off. I get it. Let the man take the promotion, because the Saints defensive line just got a big boost in him being hired. So hopefully this will turn into actually getting sacks and not pressures. And back to my original point, if you can, like I said, if you can get Chase Young on a team-friendly deal, I'm all for it. But if it's something where he wants, $20 million a year, like, I'm sorry, bro, but you're not that. You are not that. Some team will probably pay you that, but you're not that for the Saints, okay? At least I fucking hope. Because if that's what he wants and Mickey gives in because he's trying to be more aggressive in free agency, like, I swear to God, you know what I mean? Mickey he just doesn't let us rest, And what is he? Almost, if he's not already in his 70s, you just gotta hope that he's gonna retire soon, within the next 10 years, which sounds like forever. But hopefully when he retires, this show will be big enough that I'm talking about it on a stage or something, in a podcast studio. But to wrap up the show, I just want to say I really appreciate y'all tuning in all the time. And we're officially on Apple Pod, Spotify Podcasts, anywhere you get your pods. My wife hates when I say pod. I don't know why. anywhere. So anywhere you get your podcast, that's where we are. Follow the page on Twitter, WDN4L_pod, which is why I say pod for the most part, but okay, babe. Follow on Instagram, and follow on YouTube if you aren't already watching this on YouTube. If you're here watching it on YouTube, please like and subscribe. I got a whole bunch of stuff coming for y'all, and I'm just having a lot of fun doing this, and that's half the battle, I think. But anyway, I'll catch y'all next time. Who dat?